Welcome to today's Explainer class. We're jumping right into a really fascinating topic today, our incredibly diverse forest and wildlife resources. Now, I know you might be thinking, oh great, another lesson about trees and animals. But trust me on this, by the time we wrap up, you're going to see the world outside your window in a completely different way. We're breaking down every concept, every big definition, and every timeline you need to know for your exams. So, get comfortable and let's get started.
Okay, so before we start throwing facts and figures at you, let's stop and think for a second. Are we just observers of nature, or are we part of a giant complex web? You know, it's so easy to look out the window and think of nature as just something out there. But the reality? We humans depend heavily on plants, animals, and even microscopic organisms literally just to survive. The air we breathe, the water we drink, the soil that actually grows our food, they're all constantly maintained by the natural world. We aren't just living on this planet, we are completely wired right into its ecological system.
And that perfectly brings us to our first major concept. This is absolutely one of the most important textbook terms to memorize today, so let's break it down. Biodiversity, or biological diversity. So what does this actually mean? Well, bio means life, and diversity means variety. So put them together, and it basically means our world is packed with diverse life forms, everything from the tiniest bacteria to a massive blue whale. They're incredibly diverse in how they look and function, but the absolutely crucial point here is that they're closely integrated into a system through multiple networks of interdependencies. It's like a massive puzzle where every single piece relies on the others. If one piece goes missing, the whole picture gets messed up. That is biodiversity.
Check out this beautiful quote from a Lepcha folk song. I love this because it perfectly illustrates the deep, harmonious relationship that humans have historically shared with nature. They didn't see themselves as separate at all. They saw the springs, the rivers, and even the insects as part of this beautiful, interconnected symphony.
But, well, fast forward to today. Despite India being one of the world's richest countries in biological diversity, with thousands of unique plant and animal species, our environment is facing a pretty harsh reality. Sadly, our flora, which is just a fancy word for plants, and our fauna, which means animals, are under massive stress. Why? Because honestly, we become insensitive. We just take these incredible, integrated resources completely for granted.
So this brings us to a major turning point. We hear the word conservation thrown around all the time, right? I want you to think critically about this for a second. Why is conservation actually essential? Is it just something nice to do because we like looking at cute animals, or is there a deeper survival-based reason? Take a quick guess before we move on.
If you guess that it's actually about our own survival, you hit the nail right on the head. Conservation provides incredible benefits. It's totally vital because it preserves that ecological diversity we just talked about. And more importantly, it protects our actual life support systems. I'm talking about the water, air, and soil we need to live. It also maintains the genetic diversity of plants and animals, which makes sure things grow and breed better. To put that into perspective, our traditional agriculture absolutely relies on having diverse crop varieties, and our fisheries depend heavily on keeping aquatic biodiversity healthy. The whole shebang is connected.
Section 1. Protecting our wildlife. Let's look at how the government actually stepped up to help. This is a really critical sequence for your exams. Back in the 1960s and 70s, wildlife populations were dropping super fast, so conservation has demanded action. And this led to a massive government intervention, the 1972 Indian Wildlife Protection Act. This was huge, guys. It banned hunting and set up legal protections for habitats. Then, right after in 1973, the famous Project Tiger was launched. But here's what's really cool. By the 1980s, protections expanded way beyond just big mammals. Hundreds of insects, like butterflies, moths, and beetles, were added to the protected list. And finally, in 1991, plants got legally protected for the first time, so we literally went from just trying to save the tiger to saving the entire ecosystem.
Speaking of tigers, let me give you a number that's just staggering. 1,827. Back in 1973, authorities realized something absolutely terrifying. The tiger population in India had plummeted from an estimated 55,000 at the turn of the century all the way down to just 1,827. Let that sink in for a second. They were on the absolute brink of extinction.
So, what exactly went wrong? Well, tigers faced immense threats. There was rampant poaching for their skins and bones, especially for use in traditional medicines, plus shrinking habitats, the depletion of the prey they feed on, and a growing human population pushing right into their territories. To fight this, Project Tiger was born.
Since India and Nepal are home to 2/3 of the world's surviving tigers, they were huge targets for illegal trading. But Project Tiger wasn't just about saving one single animal. It was really about preserving entire biotypes, these massive ecosystems, because saving the tiger means you're actually saving the whole forest it lives in.
Section 2. Classifying our forests. Now, to manage all of this, the government uses specific classifications. Make sure you study these categories carefully because it's a very common test topic. We have 3 distinct groups. First up, reserved forests. Think of these like the VIP lounge of nature. They cover more than half of the total forest land and are the most strictly protected because they're the most valuable for conservation. Second, we have protected forests. These make up almost 1/3 of the forest area, and the main rule here is simple: stop any further depletion. Finally, unclassed forests. This is kind of a catch-all for mixed ownership lands, wastelands, and forests that belong to the government, private individuals, or local communities.
Actually, let's combine those first 2 categories. When you group reserved and protected forests together, they are officially referred to as permanent forest estates. Their purpose is twofold: to produce timber sustainably and to protect nature. And here's a really cool geography fact for you. Madhya Pradesh relies super heavily on these estates. In fact, they lead the whole country with a massive 75% of their total forest area dedicated to this highly protective classification.
Section 3. Power of the community.
Honestly, this is my favorite part. Government acts are great, but the true heroes here are the local communities who have lived in and around these forests for centuries. In the Sariska Tiger Reserve, local villagers actually use the government's own Wildlife Protection Act to fight off destructive mining operations. How cool is that? Over in the Alwar district of Rajasthan, the folks in 5 different villages didn't even wait for the government. They straight up declared 1,200 hectares of forest as their own sanctuary, setting up their own strict hunting bans to keep outsiders away. Then, of course, you have the famous Chipko movement in the Himalayas, where people literally hug trees to successfully stop loggers while also planting indigenous species. And finally, groups like the Bij Bachao Andolan prove that farmers can successfully grow a diversity of crops without relying on any harmful synthetic chemicals. These communities are absolutely doing the heavy lifting.
Because this community involvement is just so powerful, a formal program called Joint Forest Management, or JFM, was created to back them up. It officially kicked off in 1988 when Odisha passed the very first resolution for it. So how does it work? Well, local village institutions team up directly with the Forest Department to manage and protect degraded forest lands, and it is a total win-win situation. In return for their hard work protecting the area, the communities get rewarded with intermediary benefits, things like non-timber forest produce, and even a share of the timber when it's successfully harvested. It just goes to show that cooperation is the real secret to sustainable conservation.
Section 4. Final chapter review.
All right, it is rapid-fire revision time. If you take away anything today, please remember these 4 core ideas. 1. Humans and nature are not separate. We are part of a deeply interdependent biodiversity web. 2. The 1972 Wildlife Protection Act and the 1973 Project Tiger were absolute game changers for saving our ecosystems. 3. For management purposes, forests are strictly classified into reserved, protected, or unclassed. And 4, maybe the most important of all, local community actions, from the Chipko movement to joint forest management, are the true backbone of keeping conservation sustainable. Okay, let's do a super quick practice pop quiz based on your textbook. Question 1. Which state has the largest area under permanent forests? Pause if you need a second. Got it? The answer is Madhya Pradesh. Okay, question 2. What was the main goal of the Chipko movement? The answer: resisting deforestation and planting indigenous trees. Awesome job following along. I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. The clear lesson from everything we've looked at today is that true developmental activities absolutely must be people-centric and environment-friendly. The survival of our planet's complex web depends on local involvement. So, as you go out into the real world, what role are you going to play in preserving our natural resources? Think about that next time you step outside. Thank you so much for learning with me today, and I will catch you in the next explainer.